It was the best of conditions, it was the worst of conditions. But despite the stark differences in 2 different winter nights in South Carolina, the blue catfish world record would fall. Not once, but twice in just a brief 2-week period. Our tale begins with David Ard, a relative newcomer to the sport of bow fishing, as David shot his first arrows into the water just at the beginning of 2022. Now, less than a year later, on December 22nd, David, his friend Skip, and David's 10-year-old son Balin were towing Skip's airboat over an hour away from their homes to get to their destination, even though the conditions weren't too inviting. They were facing temperatures in the 30s, with a chance of rain at any moment, but they still felt that fish could be found, since there were reports that bigger fish were showing up. And David attributes this to the cooler water temperatures and the dropping water levels. And this group was hoping for some fresh catfish fillets, maybe a carp or two to keep things interesting. So they launched and started covering some water, because this part of the lake was relatively new to them. And to their benefit, they actually found a few catfish. However, on one of the very first shots of the night, David's bow blew up, and he had to resort to a backup bow. Now, I know from experience that this is never ideal, and after a few hours, the chill and the dampness in the air finally got to Balin, and he requested that they head back to the ramp. And everyone agreed, but they decided to fish just a few spots on the way back. And they were only about 30 minutes away from the launch when a giant catfish rose up and presented David with a shot. Now, you always expect a massive fish to test you every moment during the fight. After all, that's why we all have stories about the one that got away. But in this case, the fish cooperated, and David was able to get the fish boat side relatively quickly, where Skip and Balin gaffed the fish and swung it over the side. Now, laying at their feet was a massive catfish, and Skip asked David if he thought it might be a BAA record. "A BAA what?" replied David. He hadn't even heard of the organization. But a quick search on the records page for South Carolina showed that this fish had a chance. They just needed to find a certified scale. So the trio pulled up to the old scale near the landing in the middle of the night, and that weathered hanging scale sunk to a little over 81 pounds, and they knew they had a record if they could get it weighed properly on video. Luckily, they were able to track down a clow scale and establish the official weight at 81.1 pounds, meaning this fish outweighed the BAA state record and also the BAA world record by 2 pounds, overtaking Casey Vandiver's current world record fish, which was shot in Tennessee in 2016. So congratulations to David, Balin, and Skip for an amazing night on the water and on your state and world record, no matter how short it lasted. I mean, some records withstand the test of time, but others are a little bit more fleeting. You see, David has a friend and a bowfishing mentor named Stewart Van Dyke, and news of David's record wasn't sitting too well with Stewart, but in a playful way. These friends have regularly fished together, and Stewart even helped David rig out his Carolina skiff with a platform and lights to get him on the water more often. So, with a burning desire to one-up his friend, Stewart and his buddies Chad and Wesley headed out on January 6th to the same body of water in hopes of an even bigger fish. Now, to say that Stewart is obsessed with the outdoors is an understatement. He especially has a passion for deer hunting, but he will chase anything he can find in season. In fact, he was rabbit hunting when I called him just to hear this story. Thankfully, this bow fishing trip fell just 1 week after deer season closed, or else we may not have this story to tell at all. However, the conditions on that Friday night were perfect. With calm winds and temperatures in the 50s, it meant that they could go wherever they wanted in their 20-foot all-well boat. But there was just one other little pesky thing about this trip. You see, Stewart was fishing with a broken leg. Yep, a couple of days after Christmas, a boiler he was working on rolled onto his leg and put him in a cast. But surprisingly, he didn't have a lot of pain, and Chad and Wesley were able to get him into the boat, where he sat on a bar stool while they made their way around the lake. The fishing was decent. They managed to put 13 catfish and a couple of carp in the cooler in just a few hours, with Stewart sticking his fair share of them. Then, around 7:30 p.m., a real monster shot towards the surface. Wesley had the angle and he took that first shot, but unfortunately, he missed. Thankfully, the fish stayed up just long enough for Stewart to clean up after his friend, and they had a huge catfish on the line. Now the fish was hit good, but they still played it out and gently applied pressure to get the fish boat side. And after a couple of backups, Chad and Wesley were able to wrestle the fish over the side. It was clear to all of them that this fish had a chance to break the record. So they called a buddy up that had the right scale and the right weight, and he met them at the landing for the weighing. And as you can see in this video, this fish was massive. With a length of 54 inches and a girth of 37 inches, the fish sank the scale to an amazing 84.8 pounds, shattering all previous records, including his buddy David's short-held record by yet another 3.7 pounds. Now, 2 fish in 2 weeks that rewrite the record books is an impressive story in itself. But what really stuck with me in talking with both David and Stewart is their love for this sport and their passion to pursue these fish, even when the conditions aren't perfect or they aren't feeling 100%. And this is a testament to a person that truly loves the sport and who surrounds themselves with friends who are also willing to go the extra mile. Even though only one person gets to hold the record, in my opinion, they should all share the glory and the recognition. And I'm honored that they were willing to recount their stories to me so that I could bring them to you. So once again, congratulations to David and Stewart on your BAA state and world record blue catfish, taken in the waters of South Carolina. May you both have continued success in the sport and continue to share your adventures with friends and family for years to come. Now, if you enjoyed this story and you want to hear others like it, check out these videos. And if you want to be alerted when content like this becomes available, please hit the subscribe button below. And if you enjoyed this, please share this video with others so that these bowfishers can get the recognition that they deserve. Now, there's lots more content on our website at twibowfishing.com, and please follow us on Facebook as well to stay up on our latest adventures. So, thanks for spending time with me here at This Week in Bowfishing. I truly appreciate it.